I'm living the Sermon on the Mount in difficult times.
We're expecting the class to be a mountaintop experience.
Okay.
What a beautiful picture,
It is
Dennis.
beautiful.
That's beautiful.
That was a monastery in Greece.
Wow. Beautiful.
When they carved steps to get up to it, they had a lot more tourist traffic.
Oh, yeah. I was trying to see if that was like a step path up that side. It kind of looks like it might be, but
How do you get up there?
It was difficult, but they finally carved some steps up to it. I guess the monks didn't want to be.
Helicoptering in my case.
yeah, monks don't like to be disturbed.
Well, the last class, we're on chapter 5, Jesus affirms the law and the prophets. And this was about Matthew 5:17 to 20. And this is not the entire scripture, but most of it. The one I want to point out is that the last part where it says, whoever breaks one of the least of these commands and teaches others to do the same will be called the least in the kingdom. But whoever does them, and that's the part I want to point out, is does them and teaches them will be called them. So that's kind of what I think the emphasis is on this next section. So with that, Jesus began teaching these 6 commandments in Matthew. So each one of these commandments begins like this. You have heard it said, in this case, you have heard it said was those of ancient times, you shall not murder, and whoever murders shall be liable. And then it was, but I say to you that. So that was the first commandment. That's part of it. Or you have heard it said, you shall not commit adultery, but I say to you so. And these scriptures behind the first part, that's where I found in the Hebrew scriptures where that was taken from. So he was referencing something in the Hebrew scriptures. So the next one was, it was also said, whoever divorces his wife, let him give her a certificate of divorce from Deuteronomy, but I say to you that, and he goes on and has a saying, or again, you have heard that it was said, but I say to you. We've heard this, and you have heard said was an eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth, but I say. And then the last one was, this one is, you have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. I found the part love your neighbor, but there really isn't a biblical command to hate your enemy in Hebrew scriptures. The closest I could find was one in Deuteronomy, which didn't really say that, but it kind of suggested that God would take his wrath out on people he didn't like. So anyway, so what do you think Jesus was trying to accomplish with his with these referring to these commandments from the Old Testament, and he just added that I say to you?
He was broadening the field.
I think too, maybe he was saying everything's not so black and white.
Okay.
I think that it also has to say that there is more that makes it, there is more to keeping the law that what is behind it. What is behind it? It's on the side. There, yeah. That there's a deeper, you can go deeper.
Okay.
And get to the underlying portion thing that causes some of these things like murder and.
Okay. So I was he contradicting, correcting, or intensifying?
I would say intensifying. I said he was spreading it out so it covered more territory.
Was he challenging the oral tradition of the scribes and Pharisees? Was he?
I don't know.
Well, when the hymnal started with, you have heard it said,
Yeah. But
was he challenging the interpretation of the Essenes there out in England?
yeah, I think maybe he might be because they were letter of the law, I think, if I remember right.
Yeah. Arlene, was this what you're?
Yeah.
Okay. Something else, or we've already thrown out our ideas, so this is Bolton talks about the dyadic approach, and it says there's kind of a formula with two parts. You have heard it said, part one, part two, but I say, which he says was a common rabbinic practice in Jesus' time. So, is you have heard it said a signal to the original audience? If it is, what does it signal?
You have to believe everything you hear.
I think this is what the law is, but
Frame of reference for what's about to be delivered.
yeah.
So some scholars say these two parts are thesis, and which would be you have heard it said, and antithesis, but, or some say, other scholars say, no, it's thesis, superthesis. So what's the difference, do you think, between antithesis and superthesis?
Anti means against what the first says.
Okay,
Super one means it adds to it.
okay. Paul, for you?
That basically was what I was going to say.
Okay, good. So we may be done with this class real quick. So let's look at the first commandment using the dyadic approach. You have heard it was said to those of ancient times, you shall not murder, and whoever murders shall be liable to judgment. But I say to you that if you are angry with your brother or sister, you will be liable to judgment. And if you say, you fool, you will be liable to the hell of fire. So,
Seems to me that instead of the but, he should have used and. Because he still doesn't want you murdering anybody.
I'll tell Jesus he needs
He needs an
Or
edit.
the guys that wrote it down.
Not Jesus, Matthew.
The guy that wrote it down.
So the dyadic approach focuses on the second part, the antithesis or the superthesis. So what did it say in there? Read it again for yourself. It says if you are angry, you'll be liable. If you insult somebody, you'll be liable. So what's the command?
Love your neighbor. Don't do
Did
it.
it say that in there?
No, but that's the end of
Indirectly.
Says, don't do it and don't have a bad temper.
Okay, so I've never understood calling somebody a fool makes you liable for hell of fire. I never did understand that. But if you're
It's an insult.
yeah, I guess, yeah.
You think of somebody cutting you off in traffic and you get angry at
Yeah.
the person and then they say, you idiot.
Yeah.
So
No.
Well, yeah.
Or you-
But I would say
I don't
that
think it even says you fool.
They make a fool sign, yeah.
I would say anger leads to bitterness and sometimes leads you to murder. So if you
Using hand signals.
don't rein in your anger. You're able to do something that makes you liable to the courts.
Yeah.
Somebody may sue you, or you may be,
Yeah, you're getting ahead of me, but that's okay.
okay.
So there really isn't a command as I read it. There's no imperative in there. No command never to be angry is given.
I think, it seems like he's kind of trying to open people's minds to the idea that bad behavior always starts with a thought.
Mhm.
And it's the thought, it's the thinking that leads to
Okay.
Act.
the deed.
Well, if, say, verse 22 had commanded never be angry, could humans have obeyed it?
No,
No.
my mother tried that. That was my mother's command.
Okay.
Never be angry.
Yeah, so you had to
That's a-
swallow all your anger.
That's a big one.
It came out badly.
I think he's saying all the way through, Jesus is saying, this will keep you out of trouble. Just live my commandments, you'll not be in trouble.
I like that. There will be consequences, that's all the only thing to you. And you'll be happier.
Yeah,
I mean, you won't let that burn
yeah.
and, kind of
Well, that's what
destroy.
That's why I said to rein in your anger, not to say don't be angry. 'Cause
So
that's-
many,
Yeah.
so many times when you do something in anger, it ends up that it makes the other person more angry, so then you get retribution on top of it.
All that. Well, sometimes Jesus was angry.
Well, there you
Yeah,
go.
he was.
Yeah, he got angry with when the church that were selling, the money changers and stuff.
So with this approach, the two-part approach, do you see any problems with this approach?
I think you're,
May not.
you're assuming that the person has your exact viewpoint on what was said in the past. So you've heard it said, blah, 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 blah. Well, your interpretation of that and my interpretation of whatever that was might be totally different depending on our frame of reference.
Okay.
But weren't they referring, isn't that referring to the Ten Commandments, to the six that they're addressing?
Some of those are, that one is, you shall not kill or murder is definitely, I don't know, it's the sixth commandment or something like that, of the 10.
Well, that kind of implies then that you can do everything you want up to murder
Yeah.
and you're okay. So maybe,
Well, what about the second part though?
well, that's what I'm saying. The problem is
She's talking about the before.
the before. I'm talking about the before.
Okay, let's go back to that. Okay, so this is one of the 10 commandments, you shall not murder. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to cut your arm off, but I didn't murder you. So I'm good.
Well, what about, but what about the later one that says that eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Okay. David?
I was gonna say, when you expand it all the way out to you fool, it extends thou shalt not murder to thou shalt not get yourself worked up and hurt you and someone else. It's a much broader prescription for living, which is what Karen was.
My imagination is that these sayings are just the bare bones skeleton of what the interactions were that took place between Jesus and the people following him. Knowing kind of what the rabbinic teaching method is like, I'm betting he was probably stimulating discussion here. And they were talking just like we're talking. Well, does that count or does this count? Or, what if I say you dum-dum? Is that okay?
And is it okay if you say it to yourself?
Yeah.
Which I do
So I
way
think
too
there was
often.
probably
Yeah.
more discussion. A good teacher will do this, sometimes prompt a thought to expand critical thinking on the part of the learner.
Okay.
So what was the expectation of the before? I mean, did you get punished for, I don't know, because I don't know anything
Well, the eye
about
for
that.
the eye and the tooth for the tooth. If you chopped off somebody's arm, then they could take it to court and the results could be you get your arm chopped off.
Yeah.
So, I mean.
So they
there
were
were
living,
consequences.
so they were living with that up until Jesus came.
Well, some places they still do, I think.
I may be getting ahead of this, but it occurs to me, particularly if you look at Judaism from this time, and if you look at what later became the religion from that became Islam, people in that part of the world are pretty untamed and they're pretty wild, and the prohibitions and the prescriptions of the religion were designed to keep them from literally killing one another and from being, they were, you do this and you don't do this and you have a chance to live a pretty good life. But left to their own devices, they're going to be a mess. That's just
Your own devices being your humanity.
your,
Or
Right.
inhumanity.
Well, humanity, really.
right.
Is there a possibility he could be using sarcasm here? You know, that he's
Oh, I like
he's
that.
elevating this in a way that makes it seem ridiculous. Because, you know, I mean, I don't want to get ahead of him on the lesson, but the whole point of this is he's coming around to, you know, love your neighbor and love God. That's the really important part of it. It's not all the thou shalt not stuff. It's, you know, it's the positive aspect of it. And sometimes I feel like Jesus was a little sarcastic and we don't get that.
Okay.
So maybe he was just encouraging people to start questioning everything.
Okay, I guess has anybody said they see a problem yet with this approach? I haven't really. I don't know if I've really heard it. How about this?
Well, I was
Is this a problem? Would this be saying the focus is on the antithesis? So his basic meaning is on a prohibition. Would that be, or maybe that's not a problem for you. Maybe you like the prohibitions. I don't know. Or how about, I think I heard this, or maybe I didn't hear this. It leads many to thinking it's just a bunch of idealistic demands that nobody's going to follow anyway. Does anybody agree with that? Maybe.
The focus on the prohibition.
Well, there are always those that take way to the other end.
Maybe it's an aspiration that,
Something to shoot for.
yeah.
I mean, I think I see your point. And, you know, I had one of my grandmothers who never felt like she was good enough, even though she was the goodest person I knew. You know, and I don't know if it was her interpretation of some of the things that Jesus said that led her down that road. But I in her case, I think it was a problem for her. I don't think she saw it, but
Because
I don't think she realized how worthy she was.
Yeah. So what did that do to her? You say it was a problem.
It gave her a lot of anxiety.
I think
Yeah, she really fretted about it. I mean,
a lot of
seriously,
big guilt complex.
big guilt complex. Yeah.
How about this one? Is the theme of, do you see a theme of forgiveness in that one? So, well, those are things you can think about if
Well, not overt.
Okay, so
Part of your grandmother also is, you know, you're not supposed to pat yourself on the back. You're supposed to be humble. And so maybe she was taking that to the, you know, excess, being humble.
We needed Carl Jung
I
to
mean, her
explain.
nature was to take a lot of things to excess.
What?
Her nature was to take a lot of things to excess. You know, I think it was just a personality thing, but it really got caught up in scriptures and
I don't understand that.
yeah.
So there's another approach called the triadic approach.
Flashy. Totally.
So there's a biblical scholar named Gene Stassen. He sees these,
You don't think
what
much.
these 6 commandments as having 3 parts.
It worried me.
And I didn't read all the scripture for you, so there's the first part is traditional righteousness. This is the Torah commandment. The next part is what he calls the vicious cycle plus judgment, the consequence of violating the Torah commandment. So, and then there's a third part, the transforming initiative, how to escape the vicious cycle. This is the way Gene Stassen sees these 6 commandments. So the first part of the triad is righteousness, which comes from Jewish tradition. The second part of the triad is Jesus diagnosing a practice, getting angry or whatever, how it leads to judgment. And there's no imperative there. There's what's, and then you've got the transforming initiative, a practice that delivers one from the vicious cycle, leads to participation in the reign of God. There is an imperative here. There's not a negative prohibition, a positive imperative, something you're supposed to do. So let's go back to the first commandment using the triadic approach. So here's the first part of it. You have heard it said, we've read that one. So that is part 1, which was, what was that again?
The Torah commandment.
Yeah.
Traditional righteousness, the Torah commandment. So then the next, so here's part 2. This is what he calls the vicious cycle plus judgment. So if you get angry, you might be subject to judgment, and you might, or insult somebody, you might be liable to the fire. That's part 2, the vicious cycle plus judgment. So here's the part we hadn't read so far. Part 3, the transforming initiative. You're offering your gift at the altar. If you remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother or sister, and then come and offer your gift. Then he goes and come to terms quickly with your accuser while you're on the way to court with him, or your accuser may hand you over to the judge to the guard, and you will be thrown in prison. Who I tell you will never get out until you've paid the last penny. So this is what he considers to be the transforming initiative.
Putting attorneys out of work. Sorry, David.
Jay, he needs to retire anyway.
As long as there's love and alcohol, I have job security.
Well, part 2, says if you're angry with your brother or sister, you'll be liable to judgment. Well, you can definitely see that if you're driving down the road and you end up in a situation of road rage, the person pull out their gun and shoot at you, then yeah, the government's going to come after you.
I think they're fine.
Yeah.
Unless you're batting 340. Eat the cock.
Okay, so Dennis, isn't this all a setup? Jesus said, and I had to look it up, I must admit. In Matthew 18 is when he's talking about forgiveness, and and Peter asked him, how many times must I forgive my brother or sister? And he says, I tell you, not as many as 7, but 70 times 7. So this is all just kind of leading up to the forgiveness thing in my mind. It's maybe 4 parts instead of 3. Triad, not triad, but quadrad. Yeah.
Was that Matthew 5:18?
No, 18.
She's way down.
Oh,
Way
okay.
I mean, I guess I just never stopped at these, I mean, I'm with Coral. To not get angry is worse and sometimes than to get angry.
So are you saying this is kind of like first steps
Yeah,
Eventually, he's gonna
yeah,
climb
Yeah.
yeah.
stairs up to where you're forgiving, and
Yeah.
Right, it's kind of leading,
Yeah.
because this one is saying reconcile, that's good.
Stay tuned.
And then, yeah. Exactly.
The
Yeah,
rest of the story.
Yeah,
Stay
exactly.
tuned.
Yeah, the
People who remember
Paul Harvey.
Yeah, the problem with my mother telling us not to get angry, she never told us how to deal with it. And so you just
Mhm.
swallowed it until all of a sudden one little thing and you
Yeah,
explode over
Anger.
everything.
anger's gonna come out.
Yeah.
Well, and you can't reconcile it by yourself.
No.
That takes both parties.
Well, and the other answer is you don't turn it inward, because that's the psychological definition of depression, is anger turned inward.
okay.
Exactly.
Very good. That's all.
Now,
So-
Joyce, your brother-in-law said a sermon here one time, Rick Shipley, that has stuck with me, that sometimes you cannot reconcile with someone. So forgiveness sometimes is about what you do. You have to just forgive him or her yourself
Yeah.
to move on. I really liked that lesson. It was good for me.
Okay. That's a good point. So the dyadic approach
It might be too deep.
is focused on what to do,
Mhm.
the transforming initiative. So what was the imperative in those verses? Do I need to go back to it?
Yeah.
There it is.
Imperative is
What is the imperative there?
go
Come to terms.
reconcile
Reconcile.
with your brother and sister,
Okay, great.
come to terms quickly.
First, be reconciled to your brother or sister. So
I like these.
we a lot of stuff is already basically said what this is doing. How is this approach helpful?
It's supposed to help you get rid of guilt.
Anger, bitterness.
Is that
Well, at least, if it's coming before the altar, it's the right way to come before God. You shouldn't try to come before God if you're at odds with somebody.
So, well, it tells us what we should do, a practical thing we can do. That was what I thought.
To deal with anger, yeah.
Was that?
I like that, yeah, to deal with anger. Reconciling doesn't mean you're saying, I'm sorry. It might mean, here's the way I'm angry at you, and try to work it out.
So back to the criticism of the dyadic approach, it was too idealistic that some people thought, and you couldn't follow that command or that teaching. It changes it from an impossible ideal, never be angry, to a practical action, reconcile. It might not be easy. Probably most of the time probably isn't, but it could be done. I don't think Jesus said things would be easy, but
Yeah.
what was that?
Reconciliation is a challenge. Ask any mediator.
Yeah.
Ask Bill Sanders at Sanders Contract North. Mediation and reconciliation, it takes work on both sides.
He's a famous
You know, it's
mediator.
not a magic wand. It takes work on part of both parties to reach some sort of agreement or truce or level of being able to function
And
together.
how often, for you legal people, how often does that actually happen, that everybody comes to some agreement?
Well,
Or do people does the
In-
judge just decides it and they go away unhappy?
in civil, let me talk about civil first,
Yeah.
because criminal's a lot more complicated. You can talk about that. In civil, we have a Rule 17, which I happen to be a part of, to get that rule adopted. And so every civil case must go to mediation. So 90% of my cases go to mediation. And I would say 90% of those, no. It's not reconciliation, let me get straight. It's,
I will say to that,
But it's,
I'm sorry?
I just want to say, oftentimes there's a power dynamic that you might have reconciled, but one person basically has shut down and given up.
Well, the mediator
So-
says both people lose.
Not always. Oh, yeah. Well, it depends.
The insurance, I remember this is civil. I'm not talking about
There's a spot here too. I think these are Kenny's.
criminal.
Yeah, you can
No,
say
I'm
that.
talking about
Talking
civil.
about civil, okay.
I mean,
I agree with you. I think both sides, usually the plaintiffs, walk out saying, I think they won because of that power dynamic. But if you have a good lawyer, the insurance adjuster is walking out saying, I pay too much.
But sometimes in mediation, you don't have a lawyer of
Wow.
your own.
Don't do that.
In domestic,
Yeah. Good lesson learned, everyone.
having spent almost 25 years as a divorce mediator
Yes,
before
there
I
you
finally gave up because it was
Yeah.
just beating your head against the wall,
Yeah.
you'd fashion a
Going
decent,
to heaven.
fair agreement, usually focusing on the best interests of the children, but the lawyers' files weren't thick enough yet. So they would tell them to ignore the agreement that was reached so that they could go and litigate and have a judge come out pretty much where the mediator suggested that they do in the first
divorce
place.
mediation, the lawyers aren't allowed, right? They're not allowed.
Well, I haven't mediated since the end of the century. That's not true. I haven't mediated since 2010
Okay.
because I just got tired of
Oh, yeah.
putting my heart and soul into getting two people together for the sake of their children. And no, the divorces, the lawyers aren't there.
Yeah.
And then they take the mediator report back
Right.
in the hopes that the lawyers will write it up, and then the
Right.
lawyers go, nah.
So then you had to fight the command, do not kill the two lawyers.
So I guess the point is,
I
this
did
is
my
hard
job.
stuff that Jesus is talking about. Right?
It's already hard, even with lawyers. Sometimes they make it work.
It's a real unfortunate thing that a lot of times when there's a death in the family and the children get upset with something and never speak to themselves, to each other for
Yeah.
the rest of their lives.
So you had to fight being angry.
Very unfortunate.
And
I wasn't angry. I had to diffuse a lot of anger.
well, I thought you were angry as people that
So sad.
continued.
No, that's just cynicism. Or you can either call it cynicism or you can just call it the way it is.
Okay.
Well, David, there's a special place in heaven for you for being a divorce mediator.
It costs
Do
them.
not touch it.
It's a lot of anxiety.
There's a lot.
So I think Coral touched on this, maybe somebody else too. So you shall not murder is one of the 10 commandments. Being angry or insulting heightens people's emotions in a conflict, which can spin out of control, leading to violence. This is kind of what I was thinking, road rage. We read about or hear about it almost every day on the news. Somebody takes somebody else and
Or when one parent in a divorce situation ends up killing the children or themselves or the spouse because they
Well, in the
can't get
arena,
over their
there's
anger.
sorry. In the arena, there's nothing new under the sun. When Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob invented Alcoholics Anonymous, step 10 is when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. It's about dealing with current day, not just the stuff that you did to get in and do at the beginning, but when something new arises, you clean it up because it will eat at you. And that's exactly what this message is.
Good point.
so you might want to fess up. Have you ever said or done something in the heat of the moment that made the situation worse?
Heck yes.
Dennis,
You first.
who hasn't? And you.
Yeah, who hasn't is a better question.
You who's free of this and cast on the.
I know I've said some things. Sometimes I wasn't aware of who I was saying it to. Okay, we'll just keep those doors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do believe the answer is yes from all of them.
No, I think some of us did fess up.
So I think I've heard some people mention one. What are healthy ways of dealing with anger? And your mother never taught you any of those, so maybe.
No, she never knew.
One of the ways is walking away and back in the day, it would be the guy would go out and chop wood to get over his anger.
Take a run.
Do something
Go
to
jogging.
work the anger out of you.
I think sometimes you have to acknowledge the anger and then maybe sit with it until you're able to maybe talk to God and say, okay, God, help me get rid of this.
My dad, he told me once that when he had done something wrong, his dad, my grandpa, would say, Saturday, you'll get your punishment.
Oh, wow.
Saturday what?
I'm not going to do anything until Saturday. If it happened on
We had to
Tuesday,
think about it.
Saturday,
You'll get your spanking or your whatever.
I don't know what happened to him, but anyway, he had to wait. And I don't know if that was so my grandpa could dial down his anger or it was to make my dad think about it some more. Maybe it's both.
I mean, the punishment in that case is anticipation of,
Right.
Known.
yeah, the unknown.
So,
Like, it could be nothing, but you just freak yourself out and worry all week long.
If part of the goal is to not internalize it, finding a neutral that you can express that anger at, that you can fully express all the rage, not at the person that you're angry with, but so somebody who can just absorb it as a neutral, gets it out so that it loses an awful lot of its power. I mean, there are times when something will happen at work. I will call my best friend and I will say, I just need you to listen. And then I will just scream for 10 minutes.
He's a really good friend.
But who doesn't get screamed at when I get home is Joyce.
I love his friend.
So really,
Now, does the friend actually stay on the phone, or does he put it down and walk?
He's
to
probably
another
muted
side?
it.
well,
Okay.
I'm telling you,
He's a former Marine.
He can handle it.
So yeah, he can handle it, and and sometimes he'll say, "And do you want any advice?" And I go, "No, I just want to get it off my chest."
Sometimes when you work in the kitchen, commercial kitchen,
Yeah.
you go in the freezer and scream.
Scream.
There you go.
There's a TV show, it was two brothers, and one of the brothers was very angry with the other one, and they went to the psychiatrist, and she gave him a foam baton,
Yeah.
smack his other brother until he got all his anger out.
David and I are in a profession that you can be angry 24/7 if you let yourself. And I actually try to tell my young associates, because it took me about 10, 15 years to learn the lesson, is that you cannot be angry over every single little thing. You have to choose your battles. And then what I taught myself was when I'm that angry at usually opposing counsel, I'm going to wait a day and then I'll still have my anger, but it's like what you were saying. It's now simmered down and my letters are much better. I'll write it on day one when I'm mad.
The next day you go, whoa.
I don't send it. I
24
won't send it day one.
24-hour rule. Put that in the draft box.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. It helps.
David uses Chat GPT now to say, make this sound less angry.
I do.
All
And,
kinds of uses for chat.
and then I still let it sit for 24 hours.
We had to learn that lesson because I was angry a lot as a young lawyer.
I can't imagine.
Like anyone, I mean, it's hard. Some people want you to be angry.
So this is Bolton's mother told him, he and his brothers to wait to count 10 when they were.
That's not question.
So I think we want to cover that. What they accomplished.
Waiting.
It gave them time to cool off,
Yeah.
and their brain could switch from what they call fight or flight to problem solving.
That's the thing, the hormones that are secreted in the brain are very short-lived. We're talking microseconds. And adrenaline or epinephrine is the one that's kind of the fight or flight hormone. And if you count to 10, that gives it actually the time for your brain levels of adrenaline to go down.
The other thing I'd say, and I think as I've gotten older, it's don't sweat the small stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
things that I used to get angry and really worked up about and want to fight with you if the sky is blue or if it's gray. Okay.
Deep, deep breathing can be helpful too. I do that in traffic if somebody's tailgating me or does something, you know, and I feel myself getting angry, I'll just take a deep breath and say, just slow down, take it easy. This is not the day to get in a wreck and, you know, because
Is
of
this the
somebody
hill I
else's.
want to die on?
Yeah,
Right.
Right.
not the way I want to go.
And
I
then,
don't get that angry when I'm driving with other
Well, you're
people.
driving a bus, though.
I got more angry when I drove the bus than I did
Can you
driving my
see the
car.
size of her truck?
But I don't get angry about that because I know that I've done it to somebody else
Yeah.
at one time or another and didn't intend to. So, you know, why get angry about it? It happens. But I did get angry in the bus because some people are stupid. And that, you know, any big vehicle, whether it's a truck, big truck or a bus or anything, and they, you know, get right in front of you or something that could hurt others. That's the big problem.
to follow up on what Karen said, and so much of what we do in the recovery community is right out of the Bible. Don't sweat the little stuff. And the corollary to that is there is no big stuff.
Yeah.
The ground.
Well, or I would have to say, in 5 years or a year, is this really going to matter?
Right.
Right. Doesn't matter for eternity. I used to have that sign on my refrigerator.
I found that I don't get angry about, well, I get angry about stuff in the moment, but I mostly get angry at my choices from the past, which then you're like, why are you still held up on this? Like, it doesn't matter at this point. You can't change the past, just move on. But there's always the time that you get stressed about other things and you're like, remember when you did this?
Yeah.
And this happened and this happened.
Yeah, but don't you think you're getting angry because you're dealing with the consequences of that previous decision is why you're.
No, sometimes it's just literally, it pops up out of nowhere and you're just like, why was I so stupid?
For me, it's at 3 o'clock in the morning when I wake up and, why did I say that? Why did I do that?
Well, Dennis, I guess, I mean, yeah, we could stay a long time on this one slide. But I think the first thing that struck me when you asked, what do you do in the heat of the moment? Or what do you do when you get angry is it's presupposing that we do get angry, which, you know, which is realistic. We all get angry, don't we? So it's not, I don't know that Jesus was saying never prevent yourself from ever getting angry. But it is really about that anger because if you go up the tree of causality from murder to, okay, what are all the steps that led up to that point? Usually it was, well, an annoyance becomes an anger, and then we stoke the anger, and we stoke the anger. And it's not like there are times when we have reason to be grieved by something. We have grievances. But yeah, what we've been talking about for the last 20 minutes is what do you do with that grievance? Now, David, I disagree. I think I disagree with your assessment that it's all small stuff. Maybe in some context it is, but I think that there are big things that we should be upset about.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And then what do you do? And I guess you go to prayer with that for sure, among other things.
No.
And say, God, what do you feel about this? And then, you know, let's assume, God, maybe you're angry at this too, maybe you're not, but if this is a moral injustice, what is my part in this? You know, can I do anything about it? Do you want me to do anything about it? Or do you want me to just live my life with serenity and leave it up to you? I don't know.
I think doing the things that in the moment that you're feeling it, kind of dissipating that first emotional response, then you can kind of think through constructive
Yeah.
problem solving. So, you can kind of get past the, I just want to kill someone.
Jonathan, wasn't it your post that patience is a form of resistance?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like that because sometimes the answer is patience.
So what Ryan was asking me, when those big moral issues make you angry, you still have to calm yourself down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can rationally address it. But then the next step is action.
Yeah.
You do something about it.
And that's what the dyadic approach that Stassen talks about is there are things you can do. Here's one of them. It's for this commandment. So. Okay, so I think we all agreed that, well, maybe we haven't agreed, but is conflict unavoidable because we're human?
Yeah.
Whether it's at church, at home, church, work, or your neighborhood, or
You don't think it's unavoidable?
Yeah, I think so.
Seriously.
we got a secret conversation over here.
Joyce says,
I don't think it's unavoidable.
Okay.
God gave us that emotion. We all learn how to deal with it.
Right. It says unavoidable. It doesn't say unresolvable.
Right.
So the way I'm wired, I do get angry.
Well, that's what we're saying, the same thing.
Oh, well, once again.
You guys are forcefully agreeing.
No, just
We need a mediator.
Dennis, I suspect we may have different definitions of conflict. So what is your definition of conflict?
in that sentence.
Yeah, in this sentence.
The lawyers want to know. And the teachers and the class
Definition of
want to know.
Yeah.
The teachers would turn around and say, what's your definition of conflict?
Right. But when you did that slide, what were you talking about when you said conflict?
Well, disagreements. Well, I was thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, conflict could be more than just a verbal disagreement. It can escalate into violence where you have fighting.
Yeah, sometimes conflicting ideas can be healthy. I'm not sure that conflict is always an unhealthy thing.
Okay.
Sometimes it leads to discussion and then a mutual decision.
Yeah.
You know, what's the best course here?
Theory.
And that happens at church a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
we don't always agree on, you know, whether to paint the church blue or tan on the inside or something.
But sometimes those, and I've heard stories about in a church, disagreement over the color of the carpet they want in the sanctuary leads to a split in the congregation because
That's the unhealthy kind of conflict. You know.
But still, I mean, we're talking conflict as unavoidable, whether it's healthy conflict or unhealthy.
Well, I think you used the right word, resolution. Resolved is, you know, can we resolve it or not is the.
Yeah, the main thing is it depends on whether you are able to, in your own mind or in your own person, be able to compromise.
Yeah.
And, you know, we see a lot right now in the news when anger turns into somebody getting radicalized on the, you know, through the internet or whatever, from, you know,
So
somebody just picking at the sore so that it gets worse and worse.
So what are ways that you have dealt with conflict?
Confronted it.
Tell my sister whatever.
Denial.
Yeah.
I
You
was
say,
big in
Penny?
denial. I tell my sister whatever. Yeah, I used to do that a lot with my ex. Denial. I was big in denial.
I'll
Sometimes,
How about
sometimes
think about different types. So I'm going to give you one, and you can see. This is from the AMA, American Management Association. Jonathan, avoiding is one way. Jonathan, what are you going to say?
what I was going to say is that sometimes the conflict is due to miscommunication. Sometimes it's what I say to my wife and what my wife hears are quite different.
Definitely.
And sometimes avoiding conflict is simply sitting and talking it out, so we
Yeah.
understand what we're really saying.
Avoidance is a big one, I would say.
I like to use this one a lot. I like to avoid conflict. So,
But the problem with avoidance
We all need counseling
Is-
after this.
is that it's right there with indifference,
Yeah.
which is one of the hugest insults.
Yeah.
around.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not always indifference. It's avoidance. Those are two different things to me.
I would say in my marriage, avoidance was something I always tried, but
It's for some, I don't want to lead to an escalation.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I am going to avoid.
Yeah.
So that's different than indifference.
Okay.
And I think that with avoidance, a lot of times it to the person that is avoiding, it's okay, but for the person you're avoiding that conflict with.
Oh, yeah.
It's building and building and building
That's
and
the
it's
indifference.
cycling
Yeah.
through and,
Yeah.
and
But
so
it
then
feels
it
like
comes
it.
out
Yeah.
as more of a problem than if you just stopped avoiding it in the first place.
Okay, how about this one? Here's another way to deal with conflict. Collaborate. The opposite. Let's
Do it at that.
basically the opposite of avoiding. Attempt to resolve the conflict.
Well, a part of collaboration or negotiation or whatever goes back to my legal days in the law. We have to lay down the burden of always getting our own way. Because if you're going to negotiate or collaborate or try and talk it out, probably neither one of you is going to get everything you think is right.
Right. Okay.
So you've got to be willing to kind of give on some points and see if you can work something out. So you can both not be angry all the time.
One other thing is, especially with my siblings, I notice there's a lot of issues that are emotionally charged.
Mm-hmm.
So we try to talk about them when we all are feeling that height of emotion. It's never good. But if we can all just take a step back and then come back and, just then we do really well. So I think we've all kind of learned, let's just table it for a minute and then come back when we're in a better frame of mind to hear each other. We just, you got to be able to hear the other person.
That's a biggie. That's a biggie.
One of my and Karen's off-season jobs is ambassador. As the ambassadors, you look for people who are having trouble. It is very, very common that on the way down, you'll find two people in an argument.
Oh,
So
Normally
you've
it's
got the
because one of
boyfriend
them's
and the
on
girlfriend skiing together, and he's trying to teach her.
Yeah.
And
The most memorable
on the
one,
mountain.
Mm-hmm.
and I think we very seldom work together. I believe we were working together this day, going down this run. And literally there's a girl on the ground and a girl standing beside her, which we found out later is mother-daughter. Not young, old. I mean, probably 40 and 20.
Oh,
You think of a little kid, okay? He's not a little kid. The daughter took off her ski and threw it at mom. Okay. Luckily, we were close to a junction in the slopes, and we made that quick decision. You were with me, right? And made that quick decision. You take one, I take the other. We're gonna get them apart.
In that
And
distance.
they were yelling, and I was going with this one and just kind of working with her.
wow.
But bottom line is, she was yelling and screaming at her mom, who was a long ways away. The rest I could hear her. By the time we got to the bottom, and I think Karen got there with the mom before I got there with the daughter. Mom had calmed down, started apologizing to the daughter. The daughter was so remorseful, started apologizing to her. What I'm trying to get at here is this: take the time, relax, deep breathe, count to 10, whatever you want to say it. But when you get them back together, then there was a place that they could really communicate with each other, and they were then happy, yes, which is our goal. Make sure everybody has a good time on the mountain. But I think this idea of you can't just avoid it. It's going to come back to haunt you.
Right.
But if you can take it time to
Step
collaborate,
Yeah.
and then accommodate each other, whatever. I just like what you had to say there, so I just felt like I had to give a physical example that
That was a good
we
one.
face almost daily.
Yeah.
Out there.
Okay, here's some more compromise. Heard of that word?
You didn't address that accommodating.
Yeah.
I think that's not always a healthy
I
situation.
did a lot of accommodating,
Me
and
too.
whenever I accommodated, it led to more accommodation, which led to more accommodation, which led to more accommodation.
Which leads to resentment.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then when I started screaming at him, he asked me where I learned to scream like that. And I'm looking at him going, you? And he's looking at me like, what?
Yeah. Well, and that's not fair to him, although I don't want to defend him, especially not knowing the situation.
Oh,
But I think that the accommodating and avoiding, the downside is that you are loading a spring coil trap for a future conflict.
Yes.
Very good way to
And
put
I
it.
will offer a different analogy. We got the spring coil. We also have wildfires. I guess back in the day, it was common for natural wildfires to occur or controlled burns, which they still do, but a lot less. And when you have a controlled burn, you get some of the underbrush taken care of. Well, if you let it just grow out for decade after decade, then you have huge catastrophic wildfires.
That is a good analogy.
yeah, the problem was that this is somebody who
used to do around here.
I imagine because of his trauma thrived on chaos. If there was that chaos, then there was something wrong with, he felt there was something wrong. Everything was
Okay.
Yeah.
I think
drama.
that the main thing is you've got to look at each situation differently. You've got to look at the people involved. You've got to look at what the outcome, possibilities are, and you have to deal with them individually. You can't just do a blanket, well, this is how we're going to do it. Okay.
So
Dennis.
compromise is another one.
Eloise has something to say.
I was just going to say, dealing with anger is exhausting.
It is.
And if you can control it as the best you can, you won't be so tired.
Well, and if you're not so tired, you'll be able to work through your
You
situation
can
better.
reason better.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's a fine line between anger
Spiral.
and hurt.
Well,
Yeah.
Very good.
then there's another one where I guess the person sticks to their guns and they don't change their mind, and there's no collaborating.
I can't imagine anybody doing that.
And I think there's a room for that, but that one is dangerous for sure. I think there is a time to compete or pick a battle, but at the same time, figure out who your opponent is and what, like if they're a spouse, ooh. Like,
What do you
Really
want
sharp
your-
needles there.
You have to, what's
Just
the
saying.
meaning, you have to look at the person and say, do I still want them in my life after? Because that can change very quickly.
So
Where am I going to
I want to
sleep
move on.
tonight?
We recognize,
Having dinner.
if we recognize we use different styles of dealing with conflict, that can help you working out,
I
resolving
didn't
things
think we
with
left.
others.
Yeah.
Sometimes we change our own styles to dealing with conflict from one conflict to another. Sometimes we'll avoid them, sometimes we'll compromise, accommodate. We'll use different ones. So Jesus had a 3-step method, and I'm just going to go through those. First, try to handle it privately. That doesn't work. Bring in somebody both sides trust. That doesn't work. Then you put out the conflict out there in the open, and
Call the lawyers.
you have lawyers, you might have courts, you might have in church, you might have a congregation trying to handle it. Those are his. Then I had this 5-step conflict resolution process from the American Management Association. I thought they had some points. So step 1, I've heard this several times today, define the source of the conflict. So you ask a question, how did this begin? If you can figure out how it started, you might can figure out how to end it. So the more information, the better.
Dad's now.
More help
I don't
you
know if
got
I'll start
solving it.
again.
this one, maybe it's just a point of view, not what actually happened there, but anger's been festering. So what do you think happened here? Ask the two parties what, if there's, assuming there's two parties, what they think could be done to change the situation. How could they have, what, get their ideas anyway. And I thought this, they said the mediator has to be an active listener, aware of every verbal nuance, and a good reader of body language. So you might be saying one thing, but your body's saying something else. Right. So David's probably going to read the body language. If you were a divorce mediator, you've probably seen all those.
All just God's work.
So trying to mediate, listen to both sides, see if you can come up with something they both can agree to. Point out the merits or the problems with their ideas, and how it might affect others, like your church, your team, you're on a sports team or whatever, your company, how those might work out. So these are, and we heard about agreement. David tried to get a written agreement, and then it'd get shot down. You might ask those involved, what do you do in the future if this comes up, another problem comes up? So I'll have to skip over, running over a little bit. Can conflicts be resolved without forgiveness?
Not if you want to continue a relationship, probably.
Okay, that's good.
And I don't think I think in order to resolve how you feel, you have to go through forgiveness.
And for yourself as
For
well
yourself.
as.
I'm thinking more, especially when you can't come to resolution.
And then Bolton said, reconciliation is the heart of true worship. What do you think he was getting at there? Yeah.
I think that by turning things over to God, to the spirit of the universe, almost anything can be resolved that way. No matter how big the conflict, it was like, well, Ryan stepped out, but on the stuff that just seems too big to be a little thing, it's still a matter of turning it over to God. Ultimately, we are precious children of God, and we trust, I mean, at least for me, I trust that there's a plan. And most of the time, I'm the one in the way of the plan.
Okay. Well, it started off, in the part 3 of the triadic process that was, if you have difference with somebody, and this is kind of the way the worship back then, they had sacrifices they bring to the altar, and he said, leave it there, go back and reconcile. So in their thinking of worship, you had to settle your differences there before you could actually worship in his scripture there. So, well, next week on to chapter 8.
Oh, Jonathan. Oh.
Will there be pictures? Here's what I object to. We were going to slow you down. We only got through one chapter. You snuck in the second chapter at the very end.
I used that through the whole lesson there. I couldn't demonstrate it without using one of the. We have a disagreement here.
We have to resolve this conflict.
Well, then I'm going to hit you with the very last cliche from the recovery community, and I will try and keep those out of the rest of the Sunday school classes. But we have a saying that being right is just like heroin. First, it makes you feel really, really good, and then it kills you.
Oh.
I haven't heard that one.
That's an interesting one.